broadcast where we're talking to lots of experts and coaches and therapists about how we navigate this time through on our in this COVID-19 time. It's been very, very difficult, and I'm delighted to be joined by Amanda Cookson today, who's a top coach up north in the Peak District. Lovely to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me,
Amanda. So I know that you're it's not been a good lockdown for you, has it? Your personal circumstances are particularly challenging right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. So my lovely mummy was poorly over New Year, and her kidneys failed, and we in investigating sort of what's gone on, we discovered this was because she had cancer. So I had gone over, she lives in Malta, to kind of be with her and support her through that diagnosis. And my brother and I had this plan that we would be with her sort of every other week so that she wouldn't be on her own. She lives on her own at the moment. And unfortunately for us, just as she got that diagnosis, the borders closed, and I couldn't go and see her.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really tough. And then it's been almost like a competition of illness between my mum and my father-in-law. So we just shortly after Christmas all went to say goodbye to him because we thought that he was going to pass. He's rallied, but he has an infection that the medical team can't cure, and he's now in a nursing home. And of course, with lockdown, we can't be with him. And what's great with my mum is that she is awesome at WhatsApp, so I get to talk to her lots every day. But for my father-in-law, he just really struggles with anything more than kind of a basic phone. So that's been really tough because I think he's lonely, I think he's fed up, and I think he's really quite worried.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Amanda. I think when I talk to my community and I talk to my friends, you know, you're not alone. And what we're seeing is this horrendous place where we've got poorly relatives. Maybe they have got COVID-19, or maybe they've just got something else, and we can't get to them. We can't be with them, and the agony of that is so awful. It literally breaks your heart, and you know, how do you know, and then it's ongoing and we can't get to them. So yes, we can use maybe tools of using WhatsApp or the phones or Zoom maybe to see our relatives, but the kind of the pain of being apart from the people that we love, that we can't get to them and we can't support them, can be really, really huge. So how are you dealing with it? And how you know, you're a top coach, you know, I know that you studied positive psychologies, you've got all of these tools in your bag. How are you kind of managing to navigate this time?
I'm glad you asked, because this was something I really wanted to share with your readers. So I'm really lucky that I'm part of a kind of a Buddhist community. I have lots of friends who are mindfulness teachers, mindfulness self-compassion teachers and therapists. And one of the things that they taught me was this little technique that when you actually feel kind of pain, suffering and upset, that rather than kind of bottle it up or think, oh, come on, you know, stiff upper lip, let's keep going, to actually just accept it and just say, yes, this is hard. This is really difficult. This is suffering. And to also acknowledge the fact that you're not alone. Lots of other people feel the same and are struggling in the same way. And what I've been taught to do is to put my hand wherever that pain is. So sometimes it's in my chest, sometimes it's in my gut, sometimes, particularly the children, it's in my head, this pain. And then when I've got my hand where I need it, I just talk to myself as the most loving and supportive friend, to just give myself that self-talk and that way of I guess, holding myself, my emotion and my space to help give myself the healing I need. And that's been hugely, hugely helpful for me. Because one of the things that I guess you might not know about me, and might be odd as I'm appearing here talking to you and you've introduced me as an expert, is I really struggle with imposter feelings. And so this is sort of out of my comfort zone, and often as an imposter sufferer, self-talk is terrible. So this technique has been hugely helpful for my imposter feelings, and really great for getting me into the best frame of mind that when I do talk to my mum and to my family, I'm bringing a better self than perhaps how I felt before I'd had that conversation with me.
I mean, I think the idea of being your own best friend is something that's so alien. It just feels for a lot of British people who, as you say, the stiff upper lip, kind of the bullying tone that we see kind of reflected in a lot of the media, in a lot of the banter that goes around, just generally, of kind of pull yourself together, that kind of idea. So the idea of being your own best friend is, perhaps not the most popular idea, but in terms of the way it can heal us and support us, I think it's hugely transformational. So you're talking about sort of putting your, the hand on your on your heart, or wherever you're feeling it. But what do you do when you've got that kind of catastrophic thinking going on? So when you're really challenged in this place, I think it's bad enough, isn't it? It's bad enough just feeling those feelings. But when you start building it all up, like, I'll never see my parent again, it's the worst case scenario, blah blah blah, we can really, I think we can really do ourselves in, really. How do we stop that cacophony of voices?
So I think the first way of stopping it is to note that you're thinking, and to sort of catch that thought. So I find when I'm sort of telling myself a story that I'm never going to see my mum again, that hug I gave her before I got on the plane back to Manchester, that was it. That was the last time that we're going to touch. I kind of catch the thought, and I kind of look at it as though it's not me. Yeah. And I ask myself the question, is that true, or are you just making that up? Is that fact, or is that fiction? Because I think that when I've been at my worst, most darkest moments, I've been caught in a story where I'm telling myself that if I get COVID-19, I'm going to die. I'm going to infect all my family. I'm going to kill all of them. And I just carry on with this scenario that's so horrific. I can feel that it's caught my breathing, and I just can't focus. And so it's about catching that thought and just thinking, is that true? Is that real? Is that fact? Because it's not fact. I don't know whether I'm going to see my mum again. I'm just as likely that I will that I won't. And the other thing that I say to my clients all the time, and I guess I feel kind of quite lucky in a sense that I am a coach and that I do have these skills because I can give them to me, is your mind just thinks, and it can think the worst of things and it can think the best of things. So I try to encourage myself to then think about, okay, you've got caught in a story. What's the most helpful way of thinking about this? What's something you can do? What's something that is working? And just by getting myself to think in that different space, I found that that's helped to lift that sort of dark fog that I've got myself stuck in.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. So, I mean, it's not so much about reframing. It's, as you say, noticing the dark story that you're telling yourself, and saying, is that true? So you're challenging the current, conversation that you're having in your head. And then, as you say, being able to redirect your thoughts. One of my favorite exercises is what went well today and why. And I try and do that every day, even when it's been a really rubbish day. There can be something that's gone well and why. I mean, in the Psychologies Connected community, we've sort of built this platform on Facebook for people who want to sort of come in and they're just feeling kind of shell shocked by everything, and constantly we're posting questions in there that are just to a gentle kind of, what's going well, you know, what can you do today that it's rainy, you know, but just sort of gentle kind of pointing you towards something more positive than this horrendous kind of dark, as you say, storytelling. It's like having this kind of evil storyteller in your head, isn't it, telling you the worst things in the world. Why do we do that? Why do we do that?
It's our negativity bias. So our brain is absolutely trained, hardwired, and expert at keeping us safe. So it's all about survival. So if we look for the worst, then we can be protected from it because we can think about it and plan for it. And I think that that's great, but it's also incredibly unhelpful. So being aware of it and being able to then navigate and have tools against it is kind of super helpful. And I think the other thing, you know, you were talking about what's gone well and why. A really great tool to kind of change your brain is to look for things to be grateful for, because in that space of gratitude, you are training your brain to look for the positive. And so I've kind of shared a little bit about my personal story, but in amongst all of that sort of horror and difficulty, I talk to my mum 3 times a day. We have washed up together, eaten meals together, chatted together, laughed together. I've spent lots of lovely time with her, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think that I probably wouldn't have spoken to her so regularly if we hadn't been in this situation. And I've always wanted to be, you know, one of those people that connects with family and friends regularly, and I just haven't. I've got caught up in my own life, and there's always tomorrow. So I've been really grateful for that. And although we're all kind of squeezed into the house and the children have been driving me crazy and I seem to be ever washing up, tidying up and cooking, I've seen them really grow and flourish in this space without the pressure of school. So there are lots of lovely things, lovely moments. And I try my best every day to just think about what's gone well, what can I celebrate, what am I really grateful for, what's lovely about today.
Yeah. I mean, how I'm trying to reframe this time is this idea of making almost like it's a mastermind class, isn't it? In acceptance, letting go of control, focusing on what we can control and being grateful for it. I mean, I know as the editor-in-chief of Psychologies that I know all of this stuff. These are techniques that we talk about all the time. And we have been given this opportunity now to actually put it into action. And then, I've always known that it's quite difficult, but I've been astonished about how difficult it can be when you're really up against it. I think that someone told me that for every negative thought, you've got to have 5 positive thoughts, or 5 reasons to be grateful for anything. So it feels like that kind of hard wiring of all that kind of negative disaster, catastrophizing kind of brain. It needs a lot of and finding that and building those kind of neural pathways in your brain, because I know that it's about building those, and if you haven't got those already, it can be very difficult. So finding these kind of good practices, gratitude, reframing, and the kind of self-compassion, being your own best friend, are 3 things that if we can get through this period, that you can take with you once you're out the other side, which will transform the way you live your life. So again, it's a massive gift, even though but don't we always find that, I think, when you're going through the worst times, that often those are the place where you can change and transform the most. That's been my opinion. That's been my experience of it anyway. This is really, really great stuff. So Amanda, thank you very much. I know you've kindly made an offer to all of our readers, first come first served, but you're doing a Friday of free coaching every Friday, and at the bottom here that people can actually sign up and get some free coaching from you. What will people do on those coaching sessions? What can they talk about in those sessions?
So my thinking was, how could I help in this kind of period of crisis? So really it's 30 minutes to just offer whatever support they can. So I can be a sounding board, I can do some solutions focused coaching, can do some mindfulness together, you know, whatever somebody feels they need, that time is there for them if they wish it.
Yeah, okay, that's such a generous offer. Thank you so much. I know that there's so many people that could need a helping hand or a listening voice, and as a trained coach, you know, I think it's a very special skill to have those, you know, to help people through this time. So thank you. That's very, very kind of you, Amanda. Thank you for your time today. I found that really comforting. And thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability, because I think for many of us hearing that it's not easy, and it's not about just, you know, going through this, is really good to hear. And there may be places where we have to dig deep. So thank you, Amanda.
Pleasure.
Okay, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.